Hello, and welcome to the Talent Empowerment Podcast, where we lift up people leaders so they can lift up their organizations. I'm your host, Tom Finn, co-founder and CEO of LegUp. Together, we'll learn how to drive people innovation, how to transform HR into people ops, and how to secure buy-in to disrupt the status quo. And as I like to say, it's finally time to stop smoking on airplanes and update your people strategy. Let's transform your organization and move from a culture of talent management to talent empowerment. This week's episode of the Talent Empowerment Podcast is brought to you by LegUp's Talent Insurance, an inclusive people development platform designed to help HR leaders empower their people through one-on-one professional coaching. With results like a 66% improvement in avoiding burnout, a 54% jump in leadership skills, and a 73% increase in job satisfaction, LegUp guarantees improved employee well-being, productivity, and retention. In fact, they insure it. Your people stay or they pay. Visit LegUp, that's LEGGUP.com to learn more. And without further ado, this is Talent Empowerment. Welcome to the Talent Empowerment Podcast, ladies and gentlemen, where we lift up people leaders so you can lift up your organizations. I am your host, Tom Finn, and today my guest is someone who is obsessed with all things employee engagement and HR tech. Partha Neog, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me on this show. I'm really excited to talk about employee engagement today.
Well, I got to tell you, before we get started, you are going to love Partha's background. It is rich and deep. He currently serves as the CEO and co-founder of Vantage Circle. He's got over 2 decades of expertise in product and executive management. He's got a proven track record of scaling wonderful businesses, and he was instrumental in the conception and the launch of a company called 99 Acres. Now, Partha gained valuable experience in a ton of industry verticals while working for organizations like Airy Cent, Hughes Software Systems, Bharat Electronics. And through his association with several companies and HR departments, and over many years, he's gained deep insights into the employee engagement space. And we're going to spend a lot of time on that today. Partha's vision for Vantage Circle has helped it become one of Asia's leading technology companies, as well as one of North America's and Australia's fastest growing employee engagement platforms. A global savant, if you will. He has done it all and is doing it on a global scale. So let me start with the basics, Partha. What does employee engagement mean in today's workforce?
Thanks for the wonderful introduction, Tom. To dive directly into the question. So for me, employee engagement, it's made up of a lot of different things. Okay, but overall, if I look at who's an engaged employee? An employee who goes beyond the job description. Okay. So everyone has their job description, but beyond that, what does it mean? Okay. What do I think about the company when I'm in the shower? I mean, there's an extreme. That's a little bit of extreme part of it. But that's an engaged employee, I've seen some of my colleagues who suddenly on Sunday, hey, we got this brilliant idea. What do you think about this? That was not that person's job to do that, okay, but suddenly they got excited about some idea. So I think that's engagement. And the second part of your question, which is what is it in today's world? Okay, now I look at it as the difference between, maybe a couple of decades back and now is that people are not going, doesn't mean that an engaged employee will not leave your company. Okay, they will work with you for some time. They have better career opportunities, or for whatever reasons they might leave. But as long as they're in the company, they're fully engaged. My analogy for this is a marriage. As long as you're married, you love each other, you're engaged, you're dedicated to each other. But you might divorce, for various reasons. But then it's a different story. So as long as you're in the company, you are engaged, but people might move on. So I think that's a little bit of shift which we have seen, or what I think compared to a few decades back.
Well, I love that. I love the idea and the visual of how do you feel about your company in the shower, right? I mean, that is engagement. Do I feel excited to get to work in the morning? Do I feel empowered? Do I feel like I want to be there and go beyond my job description? And I think that's a beautiful way of sort of surmising so much detail. I mean, there's a lot of detail behind it, which we'll get into as well. But before we get into all the detail there, tell me a little bit about you. You had this wonderful career going in multiple verticals, very successful, and then all of a sudden you decided to become an entrepreneur and build something 10 or 11 years ago called Vantage Circle. So tell us about that journey.
I think I felt disengaged from my company where I was working, and that's why I decided to look out. But on a serious note, it is not what we are today, what Vantage Circle is today, is not something which I had the vision for. It was just that let me just start something. I want to start something on my own there. So we started off with a very basic stuff. We said, hey, let's catch this corporate niche, okay, and let's provide the employees in these large companies deals and discounts, okay, special pricing on products and services there. So what happened was we went to these companies and we said, hey, lots of brands are out there, right, from your neighborhood restaurant to the Samsungs and the Apples, who want to provide your employees with a special pricing of products. But you can't manage all those things. We will manage all these things for you. You give us access to your employees. We become the channel through which all these brands reach out to your employees. So that's where we started from, and brands used to pay us money as a marketing channel to use this as a marketing channel, and HR loved us because their employees were getting all these great offers specifically to the corporate audience.
And that's
where it started.
That's perks, right, Partha? So we would call that sort of employee benefit perks. There's a perk platform that's built. I get discounts on maybe my phones or TVs or a variety of services, even tickets to amusement parks and things of that nature.
Absolutely. But when we started doing this, what happened was we started talking to this engagement teams, okay, the employee engagement, employee benefits team inside these large companies. By the way, the very nature of our business meant that we couldn't go after those 100 people companies because the brands used to pay us only for large audiences, right? So we had to go to very enterprise kind of clients. So some of our biggest clients, or the first few clients, were actually 100,000 plus companies. We were ourselves surprised that they trusted us. But when we started talking to these people, what came out was there were lots of gaps which this HR was facing, and where they're looking for tools and platforms or solutions to help drive the engagement. And then from there, we started with the different modules. Okay, the next module which we started was the rewards and recognition space. Okay. Rewards and recognition primarily has two components. One is the social recognition. You see on LinkedIn, thanks Tom, and give kudos to Tom, happy birthday Tom, work anniversary, whatever, those kind of things, the recognitions inside the company network. That's a recognition part of it. And the second part of the rewards and recognition is the rewards. What do you give out people some points and then redeem it against gift cards, products, merchandise, all these kinds of things. There has been a shift. We will talk about it later. But that's the rewards and recognition space which we entered around 2015 there. And our first client who took it was, we custom built it for them. And we never thought that there's a market in this. Okay, we just said, okay, they asked us, let's do this for them.
Which is the way most great companies are built, is customer centric, right? I mean, you start with my customer has a problem, or even if you're in HR, you start with my organization has a problem, and how do I find the tools and resources to solve it? And rewards and recognition is one way of doing it. My parents always told me, they said, points means prizes, right? Anytime you can rack up points, you get prizes. And I think that's really the fundamental component of rewards and recognition.
Absolutely. And I think that you bring a very interesting point there. One is customer centricity, which tells us what they require. But it also told us one more thing, that big companies they were already vendors. It was not like they had to ask us. There were lots of players out there in the market whom they could have just gone and taken the product off the shelf. Large companies, the vendor onboarding is such a major headache. They would rather work with the existing their partners whom it's a known devil is better than an unknown person. So they would rather work with the existing vendor than go out and search for a new partner or in this space. Now, that's where the next part of our journey started. We said, okay, we do this rewards and recognition, but they're also looking for a wellness solution. Wellness from an engagement point of view, not wellness like you reduce your insurance premiums kind of thing, but reduce as in like engage, how to engage employees in wellness activities there. So we built up a wellness platform. We call this the Vantage Fit today. And that really took up during the COVID. And the last 2 years is where we have seen a lot of uptake on that product, the Vantage Fit product there. And then so I would say we connected the dots later on. It was not like we had a huge vision about employee engagement. But as we started working with these guys and as we started developing these products, we realized that, hey, we can connect these dots together to employee engagement. Everything is around employee engagement. And the most important part of employee engagement was, how do you measure that? Okay. And that's something which we didn't do. And we realized, this is something which we should have done in the very beginning. So we started the last module which we have currently, which is the Vantage Pulse. It's basically a dipstick, a sentiment analysis tool, which finds out overall what the mood is in the company across different categories or different areas, how the mood is in the company. And think about it like a walking in your floor. If when you walk around in your floor, your employees are there. You don't need to talk to every employee. You just talk to 2-3 employees. You get a sense of what's happening inside the company. So the same thing is becoming pretty popular in the remote working space. You can't walk around now. So you have to get the sense of it. So we developed this. So while I mentioned that this is our last product, this is the last product as of now, there are other areas of engagement where we see that there's some gaps which we can fill up.
So I think there's a beautiful story here for entrepreneurs that are listening, that you don't have to have all the answers on day one. You just have to take that first step. And you've got to have enough confidence to say, I'm going to build the first thing, and then as I go, I'm going to learn. And your story is one of learning from your customers. And if you think about it, you've got Vantage Rewards, which we talked about, right? Points mean prizes. Vantage Perks, which is where it all started, with providing discounts for large employers. Vantage Pulse, which, as you said, is a moment in time test to see how people are feeling. And then the fitness part, which is really the wellness or well-being part, which typically relates to some sort of physical activity to help people feel better and function more effectively at work. We know that our brains and our bodies are very well connected. And so all of that comes together in a product suite. But it didn't have to start there, I guess, is the secret, right?
Absolutely. If I write a book, I'll say that, I have a big vision someday and that I'll become like this. No, we just, built it along the way there. And I think it is also, most companies, I would say, we don't give value to the serendipity of it. If you can survive for a few years, okay, if you get VC funded and loaded and all this, that's a different journey, which is there. We have been bootstrapped there, and we've become a very profitable company in the last 3 years. But it's been a 11-year journey for us. So I give a lot of importance to this whole serendipity thing. Luck happens. It comes out. There you just have to grab that. But just give it some time. It might not happen in the first 1 or 2 years, but it does happen.
So how did you make that switch from being sort of Asia-centric, you're based in India, you're building this really cool company, and then all of a sudden you wake up and you're growing in the United States and you're growing in Australia and you're in these big global markets in addition to a huge global market in India. And so help me understand that. How did you decide to go international, and what did that look and feel like?
So I'll just take a step back on certain things. So we never, till 2019, we never thought beyond India. Okay, and there still is a lot of potential, and we've just scratched the surface there. But again, I would give it to the serendipity. We were working with one client in India. It was a global client, and they had a huge office in the US. And so 2 years back, the US office had taken some other partner, a local partner there, and the India office had taken us. And the other partner messed up. So already a trusted partner in India, they were looking for someone to replace them, and then we got and somehow they trusted us and they took us there. Now that was the first entry, and when we got that, what we realized is we started thinking, okay, why were we not going after the bigger markets like the US market or the European markets or Australian markets? Fundamentally, every company in the world, let's say about 50 people, would be thinking around employee engagement. What they do is different. I mean, they might be using some technology platform, they might be doing some physical activities, all these things, whatever they do, but they're thinking about engaging their employees. Now, our software is something which can be used across anywhere. So why are we restricting ourselves to only India? So we said, hey, let's try out in the US now that we've got one client, which gives us the confidence that this is a product which even the US audience can use. Okay? So, and they were about 60,000 people company, okay, in the US. They had 60,000 employees. So such a large organization trusting us, using our platform, being very happy with it. We said, okay, let's try it. And then 2020, we started going into the US market and COVID, right? So immediately, like we couldn't travel there. And initial market it's again a new entrepreneurial journey for us. In India we have, but in the US it was an entrepreneurial journey for us again. And sorry, excuse me. Now, so 2020 was lost there, but we still believe that the market was there in the US. And 21 we hired a couple of people there, and we got pretty good traction in the US now. It is still, I think. We don't have a brand presence as strong as in India, which we have. India, almost like every HR would know about us. In the US, we don't have the presence, but that's what we are working on right now. But the entire world, I would say, if you can manage the language capabilities, I think the entire world is there in this platform.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I mean, these platforms are very scalable, and language is really cultural differences and language sort of tied together as the component that we have to be thoughtful about when we go international. But I think my question for HR leaders out there, as you're thinking about partnerships and you're thinking about those to bring in, I wonder if they give an Indian-based organization the same credibility and the same leverage within their own organization as they do an American-based company or an Australian-based company. I just wonder if you get the same airtime as more localized organizations. Do you feel like you do?
No, I think, and it's human behavior, human nature, right? So I would trust the guy whose house is next door to me, and then someone staying in the US. I don't even know who that person is. However good the product is, okay, so that will always remain. And understand that this is a product which affects the entire company. It is not a CRM tool for 5 sales guys, which they take today. If they're not happy, they take the next product, okay, or they move on to the next product. This is a product which will affect all the employees, okay. So the mentality is the old one. No one gets fired for buying IBM, right? So it's the same thing here. Why would someone risk something which they haven't used it themselves or haven't seen them? So that I would say the airtime is there, but the confidence level is what we're trying to build in now. So we have this client list. We have a referenceable client across the globe. We are investing a lot on our brand. We are investing a lot on our thought leadership. In this R&R space, in the rewards and recognition space, we find a lack of good material, good white papers on how to go about designing these programs. So we invested in a center of excellence for that. We're hiring local people. The cultural nuances which are there. So in the US, we have hired US US folks there. We have not posted someone from India to the US. So all these cultural nuances are there, which we're totally aware and appreciate that. But it just takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, it sure does. So if you were sitting back and thinking about sort of the future of where this is going, and you had your crystal ball, where would you go with this market and this model? What do you think's next for HR leaders that are really trying to dig into this turnover tsunami and figure out why people are leaving? What's the next product set or the next pivot or the next thing that's coming in this space?
So I would not say pivot, but I think the focus is slowly coming. So one is this: in the last 2 years, the demand has increased hugely. Okay, now the Great Resignation, as they say, the Great Resignation is happening. There, companies and HR leaders feel the need for an engagement, for employee engagement, and they're looking for what tools are there to engage their employees. Okay, so that focus has already come in. But some of the mature organizations who have been using these kind of products, not just our product, but any of the products out there in the market, have now started asking more deeper questions or answering fundamental questions like, okay, how is it connected to my performance management? How is it connected to my attrition? Okay, all those data which is there, and the analytics and the insights are going to be more and more important than just the user interface and giving out rewards or doing a wellness challenge kind of thing. Data. I mean, how can we use all this data, create a profile of the person, to create an understanding of what's happening in the company? I think the focus is going there. And see, I mean, I would love to use drop in the AI and the ML there, but that's there. Okay, whether it's used or not doesn't matter. We still have, without all these things itself, there's so much stuff out there. All intelligence may not be artificial. So we can use this data to build a lot of insights for the HR leaders, and not just us. I mean, there are lots of players working in this space, or moving in that direction.
And do you feel like pulse work and understanding your employee population, is that critical to building a strategy going forward for HR leaders?
It is. I mean, it is so critical. I mean, we didn't realize that, and that's the CEO, the CXO dashboard. Okay, when I look at all our products, as a CEO, I think that is the most valuable insight which I get. I mean, the R&R are the tools to increase engagement. The wellness are the tools to increase engagement. But what's happening currently? Okay, maybe my US team is all engaged. My India team is not. Okay, if I can slice and dice this data to see, are my women employees engaged? Okay, even a diversity and inclusion parts. Okay, certain diverse candidates, are they engaged or not engaged? Okay, that'll give you a lot of insights. And the beauty of it is, you don't need too much data to just pull up these insights. Just a sense of what is happening can give you the insight, and then you can dig deeper. For example, we have found that in the category of relationship with managers, our women employees are actually less engaged with their managers compared to the men there. And we're trying to find out why. And we're not sure yet why, but some of these things which have come up is very, very, you don't need analytics for that. You can always make up. They go out more for the drinks with the bosses, right? The guys go out more, the women go less, at least in our organization. Maybe that is one of the reasons. We don't know. We have not started digging deeper, but these insights are very important as a starting point for you to work towards certain solutions.
Yeah, and you talked about sort of engagement of female leaders and female managers within a company. Is there anything you all do specifically for women in the workplace that provide tools, additional resources to help climb the ladder, to help build those relationships within an organization?
So the good thing is that we didn't put a specific focus that we hire women employees more or something like that. But overall, we have about 42% of our employees are women employees. Our employees are women. So that has happened. But I see one problem which we are facing. We of course provide certain tools or certain special access, and all those things are there for women employees, which we do. But one thing which I sometimes feel is that the leadership needs more women. Okay, employees overall, we have a good population, 42% women are there. But I am making a decision for the women. And when I say I mean the management is making. The management, which is the top 2, 3 people in the company, are all men, right? So how can we ever understand that part? So if I had women leadership in that, that would have helped to make better decisions for this. So I think we're lacking in certain areas, and we are working, but we are aware of that, and we are working towards that. Where the leadership, if we can build up the leadership team of women, I mean, bring in women in the leadership team, we'll be able to solve more of their problems and make it more inclusive.
You know, just hearing you talk, I just want to stop and say thank you. Thank you for being a real leader in today's market and saying we're not perfect. We are, but we recognize we're not perfect, and we're going to do something about it to bring more female leaders into leadership and management roles in my company. And I love that, because it doesn't have to be that we all wake up and everything's perfect and everything's diverse and everything has equity and everything has inclusion. It's that we need to figure out how to get there. And it's leaders like you, Partha, that are trying to do this with an open heart and an open mind and saying, I'm going to do it. I'm working on it. I'm not perfect yet, right? And thank you for having the space and the heart to be able to say that, because some people would cover it up, right? I mean, let's be honest. Some CEOs would say, "Yeah, you know, I've got it all covered. Don't worry," right? And they're sort of sweeping it on the rug, which is the absolute wrong way to go about it. And the fact that you've got this open mind and open heart, I think, you know, if you're an HR person out there, that's got to speak to you, that the CEO is really thinking about this and recognizing that there's work to do.
Absolutely. No, I think it's very, very important. And we all have to work towards it. We all come up with our own biases, right? I mean, it's not, the world was not the same. So I'm 47, and the world was not same when I was 15. There, and when most of our behavior, most of our thinking, most of our biases are formed around that in our teenage years, right? So that has changed. So we also have to adapt to it. And I think running this company tells us that we have to adapt for everything. You know, so we have adapted as a company, and as a human being also, I guess we have to adapt to the changing situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And since we're on this topic, I want to talk about sort of rewards and recognition and service awards. And you know, we want to lift people up. We want to empower employees within all levels of our organization. So what's your take on rewards? You know, what's your take on swag? You know, where do you think the real value is in rewarding employees to lift them up?
Thank you, Tom. I think this is a very, very important question. You know, when we have spoken to lots of HR leaders, rewards, they identify rewards with the service awards, with the company branded merchandise, the swag, which is there. Okay, you've completed 5 years, here's the watch for you. Okay, with the company brand, so you can't wear it anywhere. So
Hold on a second. I hope everybody heard that. So here's your 5-year watch with the company brand on it, so you can't wear it anywhere, right? Because you're not wearing your company branded watch on the weekends with your friends and family going to the park or whatever it is you're doing. I love the way you said that. I feel the same way. We all put our logos over everything, right? And all of a sudden, no one wants it.
True. No, I think that's where some of that. I mean, I'm not saying it is not happening, but the many people, many HR folks actually confuse rewards with that part of this. Okay, so that part is a small part. That's the catalog business, what we call in our business the catalog business. Okay, lots of players are out there in the market who can provide that. So that is not important. That's like given. Anyone who brings in this R&R has to give that solution to you anyway. There's not too much differentiation there. We feel recognition part, the other R&R, rewards and recognition. The second R is something which companies should focus on. That is the whole purpose of doing this whole your rewards program in a company. The recognition which brings in the engagement. How you bring the recognition. So we have this framework called the AIR framework, right? So appreciation, incentivization, reinforcement, and the emotional connect. Now, if you recognize a person, an automated mail goes to you, Tom, here's your 5-year anniversary award. Please go and collect your watch from the from somewhere. So that's not going to do anything. But imagine your team lead comes in and says in front of an audience, whether it's a virtual audience or a physically present. Tom, it has been a great 5 years with us. We really love the way you work. Just 2 minutes, 1 minute, okay, tells you. The connect immediately happens. Now you see what is happening there. You are getting more engaged. You might actually not like the company, but at least it adds up something. Okay, it adds a little bit extra to that. And service awards. Our service awards are for 5 years. But what about the daily thing? What about the weekend which you work for me and you help me on a different project? Okay, what do we do about that? Right? I want to thank you. I don't have money. I might have just $100 with me or $50. So what would you? I can't give you $50, Tom, for helping me out. So I say, hey, Tom, uh, I thank you in front of everyone, a shout out in front of everyone. That's where the difference comes in. Okay, that's where the impact will come in, and HR needs to focus on that part more, recognition, and that is evolving to give you more and more insights there. So that's how that's what I would say. I mean, you asked me the question, what do you think about the service awards? Great, but also focus on the other part, which is more important.
Yeah, so I think to wrap that part up, you've got rewards and recognition, which is R&R, and I'm going to come back to that in just a second. So you've got rewards and recognition, and what you're saying is, look, if you want to give out the 5-year watch, great, wonderful, do it, but don't do it quietly. Don't do it, with a box that shows up at the person's office. They open it by themselves. They see the watch. That might not have the same impact as if we're in a public setting and we are lifting people up by saying, we're so proud of the work that this employee did, and we're so grateful to have you on the team, and let that shine in front of everybody else. Then give them the watch and say, and here's the watch, or here's the $50, or here's the, whatever the company can afford at scale for their organization. And you're right. I think at times we tend to send the box to the office or the home office and say, hey, we checked the box, and we didn't necessarily do public praise, right, for those employees. And we all need that. We all want to feel rewarded from our company. Now, you have a different version, my friend, of R&R, rewards and recognition. My version of R&R, I have a British mother, and her version of R&R was rest and relaxation. So it's the same R&R, different terminology, rest and relaxation. And maybe that is part of a global reward system at some point, that we do need to make sure our employees are taking that rest, that relaxation, using their PTO, using their vacation days to make sure that they come back with a clear mind, and that is part of an overall wellness and well-being offering as well.
True. I mean, so this rest and what did you say?
Rest and relaxation.
Relaxation, very, very important. I think I never thought of it that way, but thank you for that. I think I'll use this. So I think it's important for employees to get engaged. This relaxation part of it, the whole wellness part of it. I'm not saying you can't force you as a company not take the responsibility of making my employees fit, but I can nudge them. I can show them certain things. I can make it easy for them to do certain things, which is I allow them to take their leaves. Okay, I allow them to take their vacations. Allow them to take a 1-hour break for whatever some activities which is there. I can just enable it. Okay, as a company, the rest is up to the individual. I can do everything, but people might still end up with the unhealthiest of habits there. But these tools help you. These tools enable the HR to provide the environment for a healthy place, that kind of thing. So that's how I would see it.
Yeah, and HR leaders have the power, this beautiful seat, this wonderful opportunity to bring in programs that support employees in all different ways. And it really is an employer-centric model that we live in most countries around the world, where we are only provided these types of services by our employers. They're not just out there in the free market, and if they were, they'd be far too expensive on an individual basis for all of us to stack up these tools one by one for ourselves or our family. And so there's a wonderful opportunity, but also a great responsibility for HR leaders to put the right tools in place and support employees, both for their productivity, for their well-being, and of course for the company, for their retention of those folks as well. Now
love them till they are married to you. You know,
that's right.
At least love them till they are married to you. You can love them afterwards also.
I like that analogy too, right? You're saying we're married and you're engaged if you're in the company, and sometimes the divorces do happen, and that's okay too, to have change in an organization. So one of the things that I'm passionate about, I know you are too, is this alignment of mission and making sure that employees, their own personal mission and what they value is a part of the company that they work for, right? And that creates alignment. So help me understand your take on sort of mission and policy and adoption of employees and how that all fits together the right way at a company.
See, I see that, the engage. I mean, coming back, I'll answer this from an engagement point of view. So, engagement, the tools and technology and platforms are one part of it. Okay, the other part, important part, is the policies. Okay, which are there in the company. And when I say policies, I'm talking broadly about it. Policies means what's the company's mission. Okay, what kind of leadership is available in the company? Okay, are the leaders trained and sensitive to the different and the diverse workforce which is there? So those policies also are very important. Now, if you do all the rewards and recognition, this wellness, pulse measurement, everything, you bring in all these solutions. Okay, but your mission is not something which is really attractive to the employee. I think it's not going to work out in the long term. It's not going to, and it doesn't need to be like a very, very high flying mission, to save the world or something like that. It can be a very simple mission, which can engage these employees. But it's not like a black or white in the entire thing. The tools, the solutions which you provide, the policies, all contributes to the overall employee engagement. But if I can ask, when I look at my own company, I see mostly what is driving. We grew from about 50 odd people to 150 odd people in the last 1.5 years. The first 50 people or the first 20 people, I didn't have lots of office facilities like a nice fancy coffee machine and all these table tennis, ping pong boards or something. We didn't have that. Those help in the engagement, but we didn't have. But what we had was a very strong mission. We said, hey, we're sitting in a small town in India. Okay, can we really take on the international giants? Okay, the David versus Goliath kind of story. That is what the missionary zeal of the employees, what drove us to the stage where we are. So I think that's important, but each has its own role. I mean, your policies, your tools, so.
Yeah, beautifully said. I think we're all trying to figure out the alignment between the mission of the company that match the policies, that match the opportunities for advancement, that are diverse, equitable, inclusive, right, across all different affinity groups. It's so important that we're matching the core culture of an organization and then bringing in the products and services that support that mission and the values that are created within an organization. So let me ask you this one, Partha. You've had an incredible career. You've built this really cool company. You're 10 years in. Has anything ever gone wrong, or has it all been, a golden road and flowers being thrown at you along the way?
No, I had this big vision when I was born that this will be like this. So Tom, you are an entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur. I mean, no entrepreneurship story is ever a straight line. It has its ups and downs, and more of the downs. But the ups take care of, the highs take care of all the downs. I mean, if you ask me, would I do it again? I think the answer is yes. There's been so many downs. Okay, so when I created the original business plan, we would have been profitable in year 1. We became profitable in year 7. Okay, so so you can imagine what could have gone wrong. Everything went wrong. Okay, everything went wrong. But at the same time, a lot of things happened. Now when I talk about it, some of those original HR managers, the mid-level managers, are now HR directors. The senior CHROs. So they have grown with me, and they know, hey, Partha, how are things going on there? Come over for a meeting. They take, they bounce off some ideas with me. It happens, okay, all those things. But to answer your question, it's I haven't seen any single entrepreneur who has had a straight line journey.
Well, and I think that same philosophy and that same grit applies to those in HR roles, which are some of the toughest roles to take on the planet, because you're in charge of so many different policies and procedures and people, and there's a lot of law behind it and compliance, and then there's the people part, and that's what we do here. We're looking to lift up organizations and HR leaders so that they can lift up their people as well. And I think you've done a brilliant job of outlining not only what Vantage Circle does from a business standpoint, but really your thoughts on probably my favorite when it comes to empowerment and engagement. How do you feel about your job in the shower, right? I mean, what a beautiful, simple way of saying it. How do you feel about it? And it really comes down to those type of moments as leaders, as we move the company and try to create the right policies and structure and infrastructure to have a world-class organization. So I thank you so much for being on the show. I mean, you're clearly an innovator. You're disrupting the status quo, and we love to see that. So if I'm in HR, if I'm a people leader, if I'm around the world, Partha, how do we get in touch with you? What's the best way to find you, my friend?
I mean, LinkedIn is, of course, there. Partha Neog. I think, Tom, you'll be sharing that name there. So you just search for me. Not too many Partha Neogs in the world. So you will find me on LinkedIn there. And, of course, vantagecircle.com. Reach out to any of our, reach out to us through the website, and we can definitely connect and discuss your requirements, or just to chit chat. We also have a lot of podcasts, blogs, and all those things. We'd love to take views from HR folks there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if you're thinking about rewards and perks, you're thinking about pulse work, you're thinking about wellness and fit, Vantage Circle has all of that available. But I think what it really comes down to is great leadership from a terrific CEO who has been in the trenches and continues to be in the trenches for his customers. So for that, Partha, we thank you for being a part of our talent empowerment community and lifting up others around the world.
Thank you, Tom. And I think you're doing an amazing job with this podcast of yours. I think this is amazing. And I'm lucky I know we connected.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you all for joining the Talent Empowerment Podcast. I hope this conversation lifted you up so you can lift up your teams and organizations. We'll see you on the next episode. But until then, let's get back to people and culture together. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Talent Empowerment. For more information on our show and today's guests, head to the show notes or visit talentempowerment.com. And as always, don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening so you never miss an opportunity to empower yourself and your people. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a 5-star review. It really helps the show grow. And a final thank you to our sponsor, LegUp, and their people development program, Talent Insurance. To learn more about how they guarantee retention, employee well-being, and employee performance through one-on-one coaching, please visit legup.com. That's LEGGUP.com.